Hi, I'm Mark Manis, Director of Instruction at the Golf Center at the Highlands, and I want to help you learn how to curve the ball intentionally today. I know everybody can curve the ball, generally not when we want to, but in this case, there are times when you want to get the ball curving around a tree, around some obstacle, so that you can advance the ball further down the fairway or potentially get it on the green. Well, how do we do that? There is a simple way. Now, I'm not going to tell you have to hit it straight to start with. As a matter of fact, what I'm about to ask you to do may actually teach you why your ball slices or hooks too much. So we're going to start by understanding how to actually curve the golf ball. Why does the ball curve? Because when you hit it, the club face is closed or open to the path of the club face. So what would be the easiest way to curve it? Simply change the club face at address and make your normal swing. That's the approach I take. So if I'm trying to hit a big slinging hook, I want it to start out to the right, turn around a tree, and move up the fairway or up onto the green. Here's how I approach the shot. I've got some shafts on the ground here. One is pointed at my starting direction of the golf ball. I'm assuming there's a little checkered flag out in front of me. I'm assuming I want to start the ball to the right of that, like that's part of a tree. So I'm going to aim my body to the right of the tree. That's my general swing line. That's where I want to swing the golf club. Then I'm going to take, and I've got a second shaft here, and it's pointed at the white flag down the range. It's quite a bit to the left. I'm going to aim the club face at that target. So the club face is aimed there. I'm aimed to the right. I take my normal grip, which leaves me with this club face. If I hit the ball with this club face, it's going to hook. The other thing you should note is there isn't much loft on this, so it's not going to get very high. Let's see what happens. The ball started just to the right of the checkered flag, had quite a bit of curve on it, and curved almost all the way to the white flag. I hit the shot slightly thin, so I didn't really impart all the spin on it I'd like to, but pretty close. The ball got up in the air a reasonable amount, but considerably less than I'd hit a normal 6-iron. The truth is, this is the easiest way to curve the golf ball. The bigger reality is you got to practice this before you start doing it on the golf course. Because for most players who have trouble controlling where the ball goes, at first this is quite an eye-opening experience. I've really turned the club face in when I hit this shot. There's probably 25 to 30 degrees closed face here. That ball's going to curve a long ways. Now, we can take this the other direction as well. What if I want to hit a big slice? Well, now I can actually think of it in terms of the ball being here. That's the line I want it to finish on. And maybe my stance on that white flag line. So now I'm going to open my body up. So the net is, I aim my body way to the left, I aim my club face where I want the ball to finish, and again, simply swing down my body line. I'm using a 6-iron. I'm going to tell you, if you're trying to hit the slice, probably the shortest club you're going to hit a big slice with is a 7-iron. The more loft we put on the golf club, basically the higher the ball goes, not necessarily the further to the right it goes. Most slicers will tell you they don't slice their pitching wedge very much. By the same token, most hookers will tell you, boy, they can hit their short irons a long ways. So when I hook the golf ball, I'm de-lofting it. Those same hookers that have troubles hitting their short irons very short, they hit the ball tremendously poorly with their long clubs. You hand them a 3-iron or a 4-iron and they don't elevate the ball as much. Where they may hit a pitching wedge 150 yards, they can't hit their 4-iron 200 yards. Those numbers don't work. I hit my pitching wedge about 120 yards and I hit my 4-iron about 200 yards. So they lose an awful lot of ability in there because of how closed their club face is. So you have to take all that into account when trying to prepare to play this shot. I effectively turned this 6-iron into about a 4 or 3-iron. Now it's not quite the same shaft length, so it won't go quite as far, but the reality is that ball's going to hit the ground and roll and run a long ways. So where I normally hit this club about 170 yards, I might be able to hit it 190 yards in this environment. So as you're trying to do this, you need to experiment. You need to watch how far the ball goes. You need to see how high or low it goes. Obviously the slice is going to go higher, the hook is going to go lower. If that's not the case, something's up. I really believe this is an opportunity to learn more about how to use the golf club and probably why you struggle with certain shots on the golf course. I hope you'll get out on the range. I hope you'll try to hit some of these shots and see what happens. A little bit of practice, you may learn something about your golf game you didn't know. I know this will help you. As you watch that motion, I'm going to do it again slowly. You notice that my left wrist doesn't break down as I come into the impact area. Breaking down means the wrist going this direction. That has nothing to do with the golf swing. I never want to see the wrist doing this. I like to see the wrist very stable and the forearm rotating. We see the wrist hinge this way. In other words, the club is allowed to go up and down in a hinging fashion this way, but we don't want to see it go this way or that way too far. We want to see it stay relatively flat so that the arm can rotate. What's a poor impact look like? A poor impact looks like this. Notice how the left arm looks. That's the chicken wing that everybody talks about. If you release the club incorrectly, you will get that every time. In other words, you release the club early and with the back of your left wrist going this way, your arm can't rotate the way you want it to so that the elbow folds down, so that we don't see the chicken wing. It's nearly impossible to do those two things together. On the other hand, if your wrist stays relatively quiet or flat, your arm can rotate. Notice how it's turning. It's not my hand, it's my arm that's rotating, my forearm. It rotates. That rotation is release. So how do you learn to do that? Well, I believe you do it with what I call level golf swings. What that means is standing here with a club in front of you, about mid-torso, pointing in at me at mid-torso. We swing it back around to the right, keeping the club relatively level. Notice that my wrist is relatively flat, my wrists are hinged, my shoulders have turned nearly 90 degrees, and now I'm going to turn back through, keeping the club relatively level. That's the way it looks slow. Here's fast. Again. That's the golf swing motion, just without a bow. Now if I take that same feeling, which I'm going to have to go back and forth through, and I make that same motion from a bow, I get the same release, which functionally is going to get the golf ball going down the range in a straighter direction, with more power, with more speed. If you do your release incorrectly, in other words, you engage your wrist in this fashion, extending, those types of motions. You start doing that, flexing the wrist, extending the wrist, you're going to find that you can't rotate the arm and you're going to kill speed. Speed is the unhinged rotation and rehinge of that wrist. And the hinging direction is always this way, up and down. You got to practice this. You got to find ways to do it. My favorite way is to hit some balls off my knees. The moment that I hit one off my knees, that feeling that we want is already there. If you watch, that's the motion that we had in the golf swing. Obviously from here I'm not bowing forward. So by getting down on my knees, I focus the motion correctly. I get the hands moving the right way and train those wrists and forearms. You got to get after it. You got to practice this. This is really what golf is about, learning to get to impact. You can't get to proper impact if you don't have a proper release. Practice this off your knees. Practice the level golf swings. I know this is going to help you.